बोले बस इधर हो जाएगा लाइन।
रुमना मैडम,
यस सर।
कैसे है?
आप कैसे हैं?
बस बिता रहा हूँ टाइम, और क्या।
सर लाइव चल रहा है।
ओ सॉरी 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 सॉरी
सर यार लाइव।
सॉरी सॉरी सर, सॉरी सर।
सुदीप्तो सर
Yes, sir.
क्या हुआ?
Mhm.
कटिंग करना पड़ेगा.
Good afternoon, sir.
Very good afternoon. Very good afternoon, Dr. Sainath Garu.
Good
Sir,
afternoon.
good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Very good afternoon, Dr. Subir Chattopadhyay ji.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah. So nice to see you, sir.
Thank
Sir, good
you,
afternoon, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Subir sir, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Dada Arvind, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, BC sir.
Good afternoon. Rubna madam, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Sir, can we start, sir?
Yes. I think, unless, some more joining, it's up to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. Our today's guest of honor, we can say, our very popular, reputed sir, Dr. A.M. Sainath, sir, from ICFI. And we have Dr. Subir Chattopadhyay, sir, Dr. Hariharan, sir, and we have different faculty members from different stream and our respected registrar, sir. Today it is a great honor from all of us to get Sainath, sir, and we'll know the different aspects of incubations and incubator center. Before we proceed, I request Honorable VC, sir, to proceed with this particular session. Sir, over to you, sir, please.
Today is our guest of honor, Dr. M. Sainath Garu, Dr. Sudhir Chettopadhyay, Dr. Hariharan, our registrar Professor Arvind Kumar, Dr. Kishore, Dr. Barik, all the senior faculty members. And also today, I think we have got some of our PhD scholars. I think, they are also joining. I think I'm seeing, Dr. Satyalakshmi. Satyalakshmi is the PhD awardee. Am I Ramnaji? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Madam has joined, sir.
Yeah, I think Satyalakshmi Madam also has joined. So, a very good afternoon and hearty welcome to all of today's interactive session. This is on the kind of incubators and what is the role of incubator, with regard to, what is the role of the university in sort of a setting up and promoting an incubator, and also more importantly, the entrepreneurship. So as far as the entrepreneurship and, kind of, enabling and empowering our students to become entrepreneurs, this is something that we have been talking for quite some time. It is very, very important as a university. We should also create the job creators rather than, job seekers all the time. So gone are the days when, we graduate the people and all of them are looking for jobs from outside. So instead, we should create, the job creators. And we are happy to inform Dr. Sainath Garu that typically people think that, whenever you talk of entrepreneurship and, the kind of business, people think that, Gujarat is the first state. Then people also look at Rajasthan. They may not be so educated, but, so these are the people that go around the country with the jobs. And then they sort of set up businesses and they become employers. And in the recent few years, it has been the more of the kind of metros like the Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad, and Chennai, some of these centers where the education has thrived a lot. So typically people think that, the eastern region doesn't create so many entrepreneurs. As far as our university is concerned, our distinction has been that consistently year after year, at least 10% of our graduating students, they are becoming entrepreneurs. So that is something that we are very, very happy. A lot of times, it comes as a surprise to a lot of people. Oh, sort of, how can a state like, Bihar or Jharkhand, can create entrepreneurs? And we have seen that, these people, they operate with so many constraints. There are constraints with regard to something like, the level of incomes, in some of the states, is a little bit of a problem. Similarly, something like getting finance and, opportunities, it's a relatively kind of more difficult when compared with the other developed states. Despite that, our students have started their businesses and have been very successful. They have gone into sort of, skill building, school education, and they are into financial services. Some of them are into some projects, real estate, various things. We are so happy to hear that. So at the same time, I think, while so many have become, entrepreneurs, how much of a credit the university can take, I can't say. Maybe something like some credit definitely goes to the university. In the sense, the kind of a skill building and, motivation, what we have done. And some part of it has been by the kind of, the students themselves. In fact, Dr. Satyalakshmi, she has been, our PhD scholar. She did a very interesting kind of, the research and interesting research on a topic, on the entrepreneurial intentions of the graduating students. So that is the reason why I was so happy to see her today participating. So she has done, a survey of, various, the professional colleges, in Hyderabad, both from the BTech and MBA. And she tried to see, like, in fact, we talk of the entrepreneurship, like what makes the difference, how the entrepreneurs sort of get created. Is it because of the institution? Is it because of program on the entrepreneurship or financing, whatnot into that, That way, perhaps, I'm sure that, we can hear from her and her views, and maybe she can also ask, some questions from the research perspective. So today we are so fortunate that we have got Dr. Sainath. So basically coming from the pure sciences and having, done his studies from, a values-based institution called the Satyasai Institute of Higher Learning. because all over the country that is an institution known for its values. And that is the institution that built people with values, not only their values into that. So that is where I think, we have a lot of respect for the institution and also Dr. Sainath. Dr. Sainath has been part of our, the ICFI group for quite some time. And he has launched the schemes of, the incubation, in different avatars, something like whether it is a talent incubation, whether it is a business incubation, and various initiatives that have been taken with regard to the incubation and also the innovation. Like he has been spearheading, a number of initiatives in the IFHE for quite some time. So that way we couldn't have got a person better than him to share with us the experiences, because a lot of people, we talk, it's all very easy to talk about, how important is entrepreneurship, and I also would sort of, maybe say from the rooftop that all of us must become entrepreneurs, but I have not been one. So that way, most of us, we have been content, in teaching entrepreneurship, but, we haven't become some into that. So that is where I think, Dr. Sainath, he started some schemes and has gone through the experiences, and his experience sharing, it will go a long way. Because as far the IFHE is concerned, the IFHE is, the kind of the distinction of the IFHE is not only it's a premium institution, but also the demographic profile of the students that study in the IFHE. That is, they come from Pan India. So I think that is something that, that can sort of help us to learn, because there are students that come from, sort of Bihar, Jharkhand, UP, sort of northern part of India and western part, southern parts. So from all parts of India, the students are there. So that being the case, I would say it is a fairly representative. It is something like a mini India, whereas most of our other universities may not be. Whereas ours is typically, I would say, the Eastern India kind of, university. We don't have so many that come from the other parts of India into that. So that way here, it is very, very kind of interesting, for us to know the experiences of, Dr. Sainath in setting up this business incubator and, sort of, and what is the role of the university, and should it be prime role, should it be a catalytic role, and, what kind of things, what works and what doesn't work. Because as a university, while we have been doing certain things, we have not been doing certain things, in a very more active and aggressive way. That is something that in the last few months we decided to go into that. So this being the case, the timing wise, it couldn't have been better than now. Sort of not only the person of, the kind of stature of Dr. Sainath, addressing and giving sharing the experience, but also as the timing is concerned, I think this is the right timing for all of us, as to on how to take this kind of a thing and move ahead. And Dr. Subhi Chattopadhyay, I know Dr. Sainath, like in fact, he is a person that comes from the industry, and basically a BTech and cost accountant and a PhD in finance and accounting. Very rarely we come across technocrats in getting into the finance line. So a lot of technocrats and technical people, they are afraid of the debit credits into that. And the day one itself, they run away. That way, I think, isn't it, Dr. Sainath? In fact, that is the case with the science graduates also. Most of the science graduates, they know the kind of straight lines and, regular thing, but not, the debit credit and all the JVs, all that, that is something that, we don't like to get to that. And he has superannuated as a director for projects and, CFO in Mekon. And after that, for 4 years, he worked, in IIM Ranchi as a professional practice for that. And, very recently, he joined us as the adjunct professor from 1st of Feb. And likewise, Dr. Hariharan, of course, is a stalwart. He has been in the industry and also academics. He has been associated with us for quite some time. And these are the two kind of stalwarts, that have come from industry and that have been associated with our university for quite some time. In fact, Dr. Subhi Chattopadhyay, in fact, he was on our research advisory council for quite some time when he was in IIM Ranchi. To that, otherwise, of course, we have got, the profile of our faculty members is, a number of them, they come with the industry experience. In fact, Dr. Barik himself, like he's also a technocrat in the sense that, comes from the kind of, the BSc or BE from the agricultural engineering, MBA, and after that PhD into that. So that way, a number of our people like Professor Arvind Kumar is also, coming from, from the engineering discipline. a BTech, MTech from BHU, and he has been with us for quite some time, and he retired as the executive director in Mecon. So with these few words, over to Dr. Sainath.
Thank you, Professor Rao Garu. I consider it a great honor that you invited me to share a few of my thoughts and experiences with this August gathering this evening. I'm particularly very happy to connect with Professor Subir, Professor Hariharan, Professor Arvind, and other Professor Barik, and all the distinguished faculty members from IU Jharkhand. I've heard a lot about the institution. I've heard your names here and there in communications, but today it's a great good fortune that I'm seeing and interacting with you all at a personal level. Consider it my good fortune indeed. Yes, Professor Rao Garu's introduction was very apt and to the point. In the sense, whether we like it or not, it is a fact that almost all the frameworks of academic institutions like ARIA, NIRF, NAC, everything, gradually the content of the innovation and consultancy and entrepreneurship is going to pick up in these frameworks. It's a question of time, but it's going to happen. I have it on good faith from some of the people who deal with these things. That is just a question of time, considering the fact that Make in India is getting a very big push. And the only way that can happen is for reasons which I will be spelling out shortly. And universities are going to indeed play a very major role in this. Gone are the days when we say that a university is going to only teach. Those days are gone. They're not going to be really counted anymore. And we will see shortly in my course of my talk that while the relevance of a university is going to depend sharply upon its innovation and those practices which going to put it into place. I will begin my talk by going back to perhaps a decade, maybe around 14 years to be precise. That is when I started getting involved with academic administration of universities. Until then, I was a good teacher, I was a good researcher, I was very happy in my world. But about 14 years back, somewhere around 2009 or 10, I would say, I started getting involved with what we call as academic administration. And maybe around 2011 or 12, that is when I started noticing that there were several symposia and conferences, etc., that started getting conducted, dedicated to the important concept of what we call as industry academia interaction. That's why when Professor Rao told me that some of the distinguished faculty members here are from the industry, I'm sure that you would have also experienced and also attended many of the symposia. Industry academia collaboration is a word which every one of us started hearing around 2011, 2012. Lots of conferences, symposia started to being held in all of this. And the funny part was in almost all of them, in fact, whatever I attend, without fail, the endpoint would be the same. It would all the conferences, symposia would end with the same point. Industria would blame academia for not producing quality output. Academia would blame industry for not helping them with this process. So all of these symposia and workshops, even though we did get some very, very great points provided by these experts in their talks, invariably it was always a stalemate ending. Nothing productive was really coming out of these interactions. The interaction of industry with academia never really took off under any circumstances. Of course, each had their own valid reasons. So if we look at the previous national education policies, starting with the one in 1986, which was, I think, prepared by the Rajiv Gandhi government at that time. If you see the new one in 2021, all of them mentioned and elaborated on the very important aspect, that of this industry academia working closely so that an effective education system and workforce for the industry could come up. But it is a fact that even though the exercise began way back in 1986, sadly, even today, if in the industry bodies like CII or NASSCOM still claim that over 90% of our graduates are unemployable, something is seriously wrong somewhere. It looks like we are all missing a very, very valid or a very, very inscrutable point. Perhaps it is sitting right in front of us, and perhaps we are still not seeing it. if industry and academia were really interacting, why is it that the industry still says that 90% of our graduates are unemployable? So whether it's in the principle or whether it's in the implementation is again another topic to be researched and discussed. We are not here to talk about it. But what I'm trying to tell here is the problem still is very much rampant. It is serious. It is very much existing. And that is the problem of industry academia interaction. In this background, I would like to go forward a little bit to my days in the Rajiv Gandhi University of Knowledge Technologies. When in this role, when I was the Dean of Academics and Planning, I was also the Dean for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I had several opportunities which were facilitated by the government of Telangana, basically to interact with leading industry bodies in the state. And that is when I started to get a very deeper perspective into this perennial problem. And these interactions with industry, which were facilitated during my stint in the Rajiv Gandhi universities, were, I must say, directly responsible for building some deep understanding in me regarding this cliched position of industry academia interactions. The summary is basically this. The industry is not primarily responsible or even cut out for that matter for academic procedures like teaching, learning, assessment, and evaluation. That is their problem. Academia, on the other hand, will remain directionless unless industry involves itself into these matters, however peripheral the role may be. So this is where the stalemate continue to exist until this concept of entrepreneurship and innovation was kicked off by the government of India in a very stressed, in an emphatic manner, so that it's against this background that I would like to present my talk shortly and discuss what are my experiences on the role of incubators in the university environment and what the university can do to enhance the growth of these incubators. The first question we should ask here is why is it that we should think universities are very good grounds for establishing incubators? Let us begin with that very fundamental question. Now, if we take a look at a university and its ecosystem, by their very mandate, the universities have a mandate of operations, basically which make them crucibles where plenty of research, creativity, ideation, these all take place in a university. This is where their mandate basically is. And most importantly, the university is where one is likely to find out, this is a very critical point. Universities is where one is likely to find that category of people who are willing to take the risk. They don't mind failing, but they will get up and they will still march ahead. They are the category of people who have the potential to absorb failure and they still can stand up and move on. I'm, of course, referring to our young adult population in the age group of 18 to 25. Now, if we take a look at the All India Survey for Higher Education recent figures, the gross enrollment ratio of India is somewhere around 29%, which basically means that 29% of Indian youth who are in the age bracket of 18 to 23 are in the universities and colleges, just 29%. The remaining 71% are not in the universities and colleges. So if you take a look at the global scale and a GER of 29, which India has, we stand nowhere, especially if we compare to countries like South Korea, which has above 90% GER, USA, which has above 80% GER, or even China, which has close to 50% GER. We stand nowhere near them. But if we look at the raw numbers, this 29% what we are talking of translates to an astounding 35 million youth in the age group of 18 to 25 who are currently there in the India's higher education institution. Now, if you see this, the first instance why the university is a fertile ground for building incubators, these category of 35 million people in the age group of 18 to 25, constituting a stupendous human capital, they are present in our universities and institutions of higher education right now. This is 35 million youth are the ones who don't mind taking defeats because they have the capability to absorb setbacks, and still move on in their life. So the first point why the university becomes such a very good place to set up an incubator is an excellent human capital that is present there straight away. The second point I would like to make is incubators, if we see, are strategically designed to create an environment where students can link with industry, investors, and the community. That's the mandate of an incubator. So, in terms of therefore following and making up a very valuable bridge between industry and academia, the university incubators provide a top class opportunity. So, what I'm trying to tell here is the incubator is the missing link which all of us possibly have missed so far. Maybe it is these incubators which is going to really bring about that active industry academia interaction, which we have been missing so far. So this is a very, very important second reason why industries, where universities become a very, very important ground for establishing our incubators. Third, really very important point. If we take a look at today's generation of young adults, most of them are not happy with just obtaining a degree and getting away with it. They're not happy with that. They're not happy with just getting a degree and getting away with it. They would like to do something more. Now, a few days back, I was in a conference. Now, this is a very interesting piece of news I would like to share with you. A few days back, I was in a conference where the speaker made a very valuable point. Of course, I had my difference of opinion with him, but the fact remains that he presented a very important point to us. Now, there are no, I don't know whether anybody is there in the age group of 18 to 25, 26 in this thing, but we can easily relate to what I'm trying to tell you. If we take our youngsters today, and if we ask them to think how many career or job switches their grandparents made, most of them will come up with the answer that their grandparents possibly stayed with one job and one profession till they retired. They were happy with it. But if you take our generation, or the parents of our youngsters' generations today, it's possible that they would have made up to 3 to 4 switches in their jobs or careers before they finally decided, let us go study on this job. The current generation, if we take, they will have the appetite to jump more jobs, possibly even affect a mid-career change. So we see that as a generation keeps progressing, the tendency to take risks, to accept challenges and take up a new job, or possibly even change their profession, career, is increasing as the generation keeps getting younger and younger. Because, like I said, today's younger generation is able to take risks. They're not averse to do that. And most often, we see that they even want to seek employment rather than setting up their own. But that was our generation. But this generation, they're not averse to taking up their own enterprise and not going for a job with anybody else. There were interesting news is the other day I was talking to the director of IIT Hyderabad in some forum we had met, and he made this startling observation, which I later found is true for almost many of these IITs and IIMs. Many of these IIT students, I believe, they are not offering their names in the placement section because they want to go up and set up their own business. Even more number of IITs and IIM are premier institutions people, they are getting into a job and within 2 to 3 years they're quitting and setting up their own enterprise. So the trend is very, very clear. The trend is very, very clear. The younger generation is not happy with the conventional degree in the college, conventional training and placement office in the college providing them with a job. They are not happy with that. Most of them would like to go on their own, which automatically means that if the higher education institutions of today want to remain relevant or even competitive, they also have to effect a switch in their outlook. We have to provide an environment in our own campus wherein we attract these youngsters who are going to take the risk. We protect their capability, mentor them so that their dreams are fulfilled in the campus itself. If the higher education institutions still persist with the traditional format of classroom teaching, giving a degree and then telling goodbye, I'm sure that within the coming few years, such higher education institutions are neither going to become relevant to the younger generation, nor are they going to remain competitive in today's environment. So it's very, very important because this is a generation that fails fast, but doesn't mind succeeding slowly. It fails fast. They don't mind failing fast, but they don't mind succeeding slowly either. So we need to provide that environment in our own institutions today to cater to and make sure that we remain relevant in our own professions. Next, I would like to switch over to the very definition of innovation and how universities can actually relate to it very easily. Innovation is actually not a one-step process. It's a three-step process. In fact, innovation is the final stage of a three-stage process. First comes invention. And invention, like you know, is something, it's a creation of a new idea or a concept. That comes first. Creativity comes second. When a process is devised of converting new and imaginative ideas, that is an invention, into a working reality. Creativity is what makes an invention become a working reality. And finally comes innovation. Innovation is when this working reality is converted to a commercial and beneficial success, which addresses the crucial pain points of the society or the industry. So we can see that invention is critical. I've heard in several meetings which we talk about or forums which we talk about, they say that much of the research done in the universities is useless. I don't agree with it. It's almost like saying that research is no longer required. Unless we do research, yes, today it may be irrelevant. Who knows what's going to happen 5 years from now? The concept may actually lead to some creative outlook, and the creative outlook may actually convert it to an invention. I don't have to tell you how touchscreen evolved. When touchscreen was first discovered by one of the inventors, people didn't know what to do with it. They said, "Hey, who will have any use for this?" Can we imagine anything today without a touchscreen feature? So what is considered useless today, we don't know what it is going to be tomorrow. Technology is developing. So invention is very much critical. Research is very much critical. The tragedy is today, much of the research in our universities is published in papers, archived, and nothing else is done with it. So the creativity aspect should be brought in. A re-research of our own inventions, our own research work done previously, a database of that should be created. They should be searched so that we should start taking out from them which of these inventions can be creatively converted into a reality, into a working reality. And once that happens, we can then take to innovation and see whether this working reality can become a commercial and a beneficial success. So among the three, like I just now said, universities already have the concept of research and development leading to invention and creativity working in their own pedagogy. It is included, it's a part of their pedagogy. It is an incubator that closes the loop by bringing in the facility for creating innovations. So the incubator, once it comes into the university establishment, the loop is closed. Invention is taking place, creativity is taking place, innovations also are taking place. And that is when the university environment becomes relevant to this current generation of students and of course the younger faculty members. So an incubator in a university therefore builds a perfect ecosystem which creates a healthy environment for not only top class academics and research, but also innovation and entrepreneurship. And one of the best emphatic pointer to what I just said is to note that it is not a coincidence that the world's top universities like Harvard, Stanford, UC Berkeley, Cambridge, University of Manchester, you can name them, Yale, they also have the highest number of entrepreneurs emerging from them year after year. So academically top institutions today are also leading the world in churning out top class, the largest number of entrepreneurs. Even in India, if we see, even in India, we will see that it is the IITs and IIMs that have churned out some of the most successful startups. Professor Rao Garu, I think just you have to excuse me, I'm getting some urgent calls from a senior faculty, my senior relatives. One of my, what do you call, relative is critical. I hope nothing has happened. Just give me 2 minutes, sir, I'll get back. Yeah, I'm sorry, I just lost my grandfather, but it's okay.
No, I'm sorry to hear
Yeah.
that, So if you
Sure.
want to.
No, it's okay, sir. I'll finish this and I'll go.
Very sad, sir.
No, we'll finish this, sir. It's okay. I'll finish this. I'll take my questions and then I'll go. So let us say, therefore, that we were at this point wherein we said that it's not a coincidence to say that some of the top universities in the world, even in India, if you see our IITs, IIMs, or NIITs, they are the ones who are leading the chain in having some of the highest rate of entrepreneurs emerging from their portals. Even the best incubators also, if you see, are associated with these premier institutions only. So it's a very good pointer to come to the conclusion that where academics, intelligence and brilliance and thoroughness thrives, innovativeness and entrepreneurship also thrives in those places only. Of course, I'm not referring here to standalone incubators. I'm referring to incubators which are assigned to universities. But even then, if you see the ARIA rankings in the recent ARIA ranking, you will once again see that the top incubators are invariably those associated with the top academic institutions only. So this is a clear-cut indicator that best of academics and the best of entrepreneurship and innovation go hand in hand. One helps the other to succeed and thrive. So if you even go to the world stage, some of the most popular startups that originated in the university, Google, everyone knows Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Google actually started in the dormitory in Stanford University in 1996. Incidentally, it was not called Google when it was first made. It was called Backrub. And when it was built, its purpose was something else. Basically, to help the students of Stanford to quickly search for material and research for material. When they were preparing their project reports. It's incidental that somebody in Silicon Valley took note of this Backrub, and they said this is a fantastic potential for this. and they gave Larry Page and Sergey Brin a check for $100,000 way back in 1996 to start what we today know as Google. Facebook, similarly. Now, this also started in Harvard University this time. Our single student in Harvard University, his main purpose was again different. He said, in the entire dormitories of Harvard universities, why don't I have a platform, on which a social platform on which all the students can come together and have some fun, a virtual social platform. That is how Facebook came up. Mark Zuckerberg was actually one of the people who began that project. He was not the sole inventor of that, but that began in the dormitories of Harvard University. Time magazine, the number one magazine, news magazine in the world today, that also began in Yale University. FedEx, Yale University. Flipkart, Zomato, Make My Trip, all of them have their origins in IITs or IIMs. So I don't have to really go on and explain about how the best of academics also spins off the best of innovations and startups and vice versa. There are many courses in IITs and IIMs, if we go today, which are actually being added so that this new generation of innovators are finding some utility in the university environment. In 2019, something happened, which is of very vital significance. The National Innovation and Startup Policy came up. Why do I call it a critical step? Because this is the policy that gave a clear blueprint on building innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem in India's higher education institutions. Some of the key highlights of that, I'm talking about the National Innovation and Startup Policy 2019. Even though it is in 2019, it was unveiled in 2020 September by Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe in New Delhi. We were all there when he unveiled this policy. One of the main thing in this policy was it removed red tapeism and stringent control mechanisms. These words are there in the policy. To remove stringent control mechanisms and encourage innovation and entrepreneurship activities. To remove hierarchical barriers, all these words are there in the policy, by the way, and encouraging individual autonomy. Most importantly, it called upon the higher education institutions to devote 1% of their annual budget to innovation and entrepreneurship activities. It clearly spelled out how in a university which has several departments like IACs, EDCs, startup cells, IPRs, technology transfer cells, specialized research groups, laboratories, how all of them can come together under a single umbrella and how it can create that innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem. It provided scope for concepts like first time in the university environment, which spread all across the country. We heard concepts of equity sharing, revenue sharing, zero interest loan, etc. How these concepts can be brought up so that our startups and entrepreneurs and innovators can thrive in the university environment. It also spelled out detailed facilities that can be provided. Concession in attendance to innovators, that is basically a 0 year to be declared for the innovators. They can be given permission for a semester or more so that they can go and attend to their innovation activities. It also called for considering the service provided by faculty members to innovators to be considered when their promotion skips are coming up. So there are so many things. And of course, recently Kapila, Kalam program for IP literacy. This basically provides all the support which universities need to file for IP. So these are the various important features that came up in the National Innovation and Startup Policy, which was unveiled in 2020. Now I come to the brass tacks, the main important. What can we do to basically have an incubator in our university? I would like to have an incubator in my university. The ideal platform would, the ICFI group, if you see, has 11 universities spread all over the country. The best of the situation would be if we can link up our resources and create one of the most robust of ecosystems, which is propagating innovation and entrepreneurship. So if we go to capacity building, first what we should. One thing is there, everyone, it is not a very depressing thought I'm sharing with you, but it's a fact. And the fact is that failure rate of incubatees or startups is close to 90%. The failure rate by nature is very high. That's the name of the game. There's nothing we can do about it. However much I try to increase it, for a variety of reasons, the failure rate generally hovers around 80 to 90%. It's a fact. So the best thing we can do is, while planning an incubator, we should not hurry up and go for an incubator. We should first confirm that the best chance of survival of the incubator is in place, because by nature, an incubator failing percentage is very high. So there are several things which we can possibly do. I'm sure that if all of us sit together, we will come up with more such things of what we can do. What is it that we can do to ensure the best possible chances for the incubator to become a hit? Number one is capacity building and awareness. I personally know of one or two premier institutions. I don't want to name them because they're there in Hyderabad, wherein they have built an incubator and it is just lying in dust. It's doing nothing. It was built, it was constituted with a great degree of fanfare, but nobody knew what to do with it. Because the faculty didn't know what it was doing in the university. Students had no idea what they can gain from the incubator. So this is all said and done. It was just pushed under lock and key. It is there only in paper. So that is a situation which we should not get. For this is the purpose for which the first critical exercises to do is capacity building and awareness. And ideally speaking, the institution's innovation councils should spearhead this effort. Webinars, mock hackathons, visits to startups, visits to fab labs, maker labs, running programs like Entrepreneur in Residence, fireside chats with successful entrepreneurs. There are so many programs which we can run all through the year so that the faculty and students become sensitized to this concept of innovation and entrepreneurship. Similarly, one more thing the university can do, which I strongly recommend to be done, is create a repository of all the research work done by the university faculty stroke students. Because it is my sincere feeling that this repository should be openly accessible all through the year to everyone. Because I strongly believe that what is just a research document today has a potential of becoming a technology and an innovation in the future. So re-researching of the database is very critical at all points of time. The second thing which we can do for creating the incubator in a university is identify what the core domain of operation is for me. Usually what we do is the incubator aligns itself with the core competence, vision, and mission of the host institution. Generally, that is what makes its presence in the institution more relevant. Now, this basically is done so that there's a guiding principle to decide if the incubator will be sector specific or sector agnostic. What is happening? What is it that the society around me needs? What is it that the university's core strength is all about? So thorough research should be done about all this. Then we should see how our strength can align with the community and the industry requirement in my area. And that is when the core domain of operation of the incubator is finalized. This makes the incubator relevant to not only the university, but also to the society around the university. So one important aspect.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Sainath Garu. Because of the personal reasons, we may also have to kind of leave early. So my request is, if you can, while all your advice is all very good and appreciate that, can you quickly share your experience with regard to setting up the incubator, the business incubator, in the IFHE? Because
I will show you a slide.
That's something we can relate ourselves and see, in fact, what will make it tick and what are the kind of, areas which, we should be safeguarding.
Can I be given the permission to share my screen by the host?
Yeah, please do that. Because the only thing is, because, you budgeted 1 hour and, we would like to leave at least 15 minutes for the question answer session. Yeah. That is the reason why I thought that, quickly we can come to, sharing of the experience with IFHE. Yeah.
Here coming, so yeah. So there are 12 main points which we can basically.
Okay. Can you just go to our IFHE? Because this
is IFHE.
We'll share with our team.
This is on the IFHE, sir.
Okay, I see. Fine.
This is on the IFHE what we did.
Oh, I see.
So first and foremost is capacity building and awareness. I've already covered. Second is core domain. Actually, I was speaking about that. The third one is a legal structure. Legal structure basically means, would you like to register it as a Section 8 company or a limited liable partnership firm or a society? There are several firms. We went for a Section 8 company because in a university environment, that is what even our company secretaries advised. It's easy to manage. Legal structure is one thing you should decide before you actually go for the incubator. The fourth one is the financial structure and infrastructure. Like who is going to fund it and to what quantum they're going to fund it. So if you decide the core domain of operation, then there are some Government of India grants which we can call upon, which are specifically attracted to that particular, like for example, if you go for MSME funds or DST funds or BIRAC, which is a DBT funds. So if we decide the core competence of our incubator, we can decide where to obtain the financial this thing. Then infrastructure. What is it that I should be providing? Ideally speaking, it's recommended that we can begin with as small as even 1000 SFT. Even 1000 SFT we can begin with. Right now, the IFHE, we have started with 3200 SFT of space. And financial structure, of course, IFHE is the host institution. So it is funding whatever initial stage we have to fund. We are going to apply for grants. We also have plans to apply for funds from the government agencies. And the incubator's purpose should be that we should have to break free from IFHE funds in 4 years. That's called the break-even point. So the incubator as a business entity should become self-sufficient in 4 to 5 years. If it is run with a good team, then that is possible to be done. Then comes the actual things which has to be done at our end before we go to an incubator. Number one, an institution's innovation and startup policy should have been made, approved by the board of management, and it should have been notified to implementation. Now, why do I insist on this policy? Because it's a very good guidebook about what the students and faculty can look forward to from the university for availing innovation and entrepreneurship activities. So everything what I said in NISP, for example, allowing the students a break of 1 semester, converting the work done for innovation into academic credits, allowing faculty to take off for 1 semester to mentor a startup, allowing the faculty members to become a director of a startup, but without any paying position. All those rules and regulations are provided in this particular policy. Then comes the institutional incubator policy. This tells what the incubator is basically going to do to the university to help it basically come up with various startups. How are you going to identify the startups? How are you going to allow them to be incubated? What is the IP policy you're planning to do? What is the funding support you're planning to give? What is the execution structure of the incubator? All these things come into the incubator policy. Then comes the board of directors. You have to constitute a board of directors. Board of directors can be anywhere from 2 to 11. I think 2 members to 11 members. As per the latest Ministry of Corporate Affairs, when we apply for this incubator, it allows only 3 founding directors to be nominated. You cannot add more than. So all the other members will have to be added subsequently through a resolution of the board of directors before the first annual general meeting. So that is the board of directors. Board of directors and 1 member among the board of directors becomes the executive director. Executive director basically runs the day-to-day affairs of the incubator. Next, very, very important is a board of advisors. Board of advisors, I would also like to add mentors. All these things, exercises should be done before we actually go and build an incubator. So board of advisors, who are the people whom we should take on the board of advisors? These are the people who basically bring us connects to various sources of funding. They bring us in contact with different industry partners. They most importantly, based on the current requirement of the industry and society, they will help us to prepare a new pedagogies and new processes and programs to run in the incubator. Mentors is another list we should have ready with us before we set up an incubator. What are the three domains of mentorship? I may require mentoring for IT and ITS, technology mentoring, business management mentoring, legal and regulatory mentoring. So I have to make a pool of different people who can mentor these startups and make sure that this kind of support is provided very clearly. Next, I should have a list of investors empaneled with me. Very important. If the startup wants to look for funds, angel investors or venture capitalists, I should have some people empaneled with me already. And then I should have a list of service providers empaneled with the incubator. Service providers, because the startups require different kind of services. They will require somebody to maintain their accounts, file their IT returns, advise them on GST norms, advise them and file IPRs for them, or they might want somebody to design a website for them, help them with preparing a go-to-market strategy. So there are different service providers who have to be empaneled with the incubator. We also have to identify who is going to manage the accounts and finance for the incubator, not for the startups, for the incubator. Who is going to provide the legal support and help for the incubator? And business plan of the incubator, who is going to help us with this? And last but not the least, what are the shared facilities I can share with the parent university or with my co-incubators or with my own dedicated facilities? Once I have all of these ready, then the next step is I can go about setting up the incubator. For the setting up the incubator, we need to contact a company secretary who is practicing. Any company secretary who is practicing and in the field, they are the ones who establish these for us. And there you have to have a memorandum of association, articles of association, both of which will draw from number 5 and 6, innovation and startup policy, incubator policy. So they will take from that what are the memorandums of association, articles of association. Then they will ask who are the promoters, who are their directors. Then they will file it. All the documentation they'll take it. We don't have to really worry. We just have to identify who will be the promoters, who will be the directors. So company secretaries will file and make the thing operational. So once it is operational, we have to create a team, an executive director from one or the two of the board members, and also a dedicated full-time incubation manager. This full-time incubation manager is the key person. Like if he or she is good, the incubator will break even in 4 to 5 years. If they are bad, they will continue to depend on the university for funds. So this is basically the various methods that we went about. Timelines, it's very easy. Once the company secretary files the application, within 1 week, approval comes from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which is incorporating the incubator. And after that, to get it operational, it may take maybe another 1 month. So in less than 2 months after the company secretary files the application, we can have the incubator up and running. So this is what we have done. As far as IFHE is concerned, we have given advertisement for the incubation manager and incubation associate. The first cohort of about 20 ideas are going to go through the selection procedure in the coming week. Totally 20. We are hoping to get about 14 startups incubated in the first cohort. And we have already identified who is going to deal with our accounts and finance, who is going to help us with our legal procedures. We have a complete list of people, service providers, investors, and mentors empaneled with us who have agreed to support us. So this is the status of the IFHE incubator as it stands. So I'm open to questions.
Yeah, there are, I think some questions that are already floating. In the chat box, Mr. Pradeep Bhattacharya, he's a leading advocate from Dhanbad. He has been associated with us. He wants to know what is the difference between discovery and innovation?
Invention, sir.
Yeah, sorry, discovery and invention. Sorry, I'm sorry. Not discovery, sorry, yeah.
I don't know whether it's directly related to what I just said, but yeah, I can tell you what my professor told me. I still remember it. Discovery can come unintentional. Like Columbus discovered America. His intention was not to discover America. That's why we didn't say Columbus invented America. We say Columbus discovered America. Newton didn't invent gravity. He discovered gravity. So discovery is finding something which is obvious in front of us, but suddenly when we realize that it is there, we call it a discovery. Invention, on the other hand, we do a careful study to find out whether it is there, and then when we find it, we say it is invented. This is invented.
Yeah. So I think Dr. Satyalakshmi, I think, wants to ask something.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
good afternoon, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are
Yes,
audible.
madam, you are audible.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for a very enlightening speech. As part of my research, I visited around 18 colleges in and around Hyderabad and had an opportunity to interact with both the students and the members and staff of the entrepreneurship development cells, the EDCs that were there in various colleges. Sir, I would like your viewpoint on how to integrate incubator activity with ED cell activity, that is talking about the ground operational level. So if you can shed some light on how the existing ED cell can be coordinated or combined with the incubator, do you think it will give better results, or do you think there are two separate activities that should go parallel but must not mix or must not merge with each other? Thank you, sir.
The good question, madam, because in the National Innovation and Startup Policy, one of the main points addressed was integration of all these things into how to create a healthy ecosystem. Now, entrepreneurship development cells are very much required because the incubator in the university looks at the university to supply a steady chain of talent and startup pools into the incubator. So this is where the entrepreneurship development cell comes into the picture. The main job of the entrepreneurship development cell, or in the recent language of the Ministry of Education, the Institutions Innovation Council, is basically it has to keep creating that awareness about the innovation and entrepreneurship culture in the society and the faculty. This is the job of the innovation cell. It has to conduct mock competitions, conduct webinars, and make them interact with the innovators and entrepreneurs. So the job of the EDC or Innovation Cell or the Institutions Innovation Council is basically to keep this awareness and the spirit of entrepreneurship up among the stakeholders in the university. The incubator, on the other hand, is not concerned with this job. That is not its main purpose. The incubator is the business end of what the EDC and the IAC is doing. The incubator is a Section 8 company. It is a regular business entity. So once these people with sufficient awareness are created, the incubator takes over from them, makes them come there, establish their startups, create a business entity, and go there. So if you ask me, should they be kept independent? Operationally, yes. I don't advise mixing up the tasks of one with the other. Each has their own purpose. Like it's a perennial question. Is the mother more important or the father more important? There's no answer. Both are equally important. What one can do, the other cannot do, should not do. It's as simple as that. So incubator and the EDCs, both of them have their own standing. Both of them have their own jobs very specifically described. Incubator cannot involve itself in increasing the awareness levels and running the awareness related programs of I&D culture because that is not its job. It has to worry about the business. Similarly, the EDC cannot worry about the business. Its main concern is to create capacity building. That's what it is. That's the word I was looking at. Capacity building. That is to be handled by this. I hope it is answered.
Yes,
Good,
yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other questions, from our faculty members or anybody? Dr. Hariharan, you would like to ask something, sir?
Professor Bhattacharya has asked one question. Research whether to invent something new.
Dr. Saina.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So Dr. Hariharan ji, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Saina, it was very interesting talk. And I think it is this is going to talk of the future also. We are talking about the startups, especially after this budget. We have been talking a lot about that companies should come up and they are giving incentive. They're extending also some 1 year period for their tax waiver and this thing. We have been now watching recently this TV serial that Shark Tank India.
Shark Tank.
India, yes, that's a very good serial. Let me tell you, because the the startup entrepreneurs, they are there. Incidentally, I find that, as you said, 90% of the ideas they get rejected, and in that serial also they get rejected. Only hardly 10% or so they get selected, and they are ready to fund them with the, of course, equity participation also and all those things. But very few, none of them I find from IIT or IIM. And in fact, they also remarked, those panel of judges, on they said that you see the brilliant ideas are there in the many places. Now you don't go to hunt to the IIT and IIM. So it's there in many universities and places. Somehow we are not able to spot it. So what role this incubation center can play over there? And I think one of my suggestions could be that it should not be restricted only to the students. Even those who have worked for say 5 to 10 years, they can come to the incubation center and then they can pitch for their startups.
100%, sir. Incubators, actually, none of the incubators, it's a very bad idea if they depend only on the university. In fact, our university also, we have startups from outside also who are incubating with us. So by the definition of an incubator, we cannot restrict the participation. Anyone in India who has an idea is allowed to be incubated if he or she is found worthy of it. Because it doesn't make business sense to restrict the participation. You're right, sir, 100%.
No, that is true. No, Dr. Harihan, ultimately, what I have seen is it's the mindset. Yeah. Of course, it may not be fair on my part, to make a comment. The IITs and IIMs, they're producing great managers, corporate managers, and they're also producing, particularly IITs, like in fact, we are also giving the talent to the entire group. But I think as far as the entrepreneurship is concerned, there, somebody must have mindset to create something on his own, I think that kind of a thing, while it happens there, in the IITs and IIMs, they have got, disproportionately higher number of high resources. Because while they are producing, but in terms of, if you see, per resource that is expended, there the kind of yield is not so much into that. I think, so many other normal universities we have seen producing a lot more to that. Yeah. Any other kind of questions?
There's one question by Professor P.K. Bhattacharya. Research,
yeah, you're the same person new. Asking you with regard to this thing, Yeah.
Research, by the name says research. So it is not necessarily you have to invent something new, sir. You can give a new perspective to an existing idea also. That is, research is not confined and doesn't mean you have to invent something.
No, absolutely, that's right. Yeah.
Sir, Dr. Barik from this side, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sir, actually, during your conversations, you were explaining that in IFHE, you have become around 20 business ideas, roughly, what I heard actually. Sir, I just want to know what type of cultural that you have created among the students, so that the business ideas comes from the students, and after that we can go for screening. Because the first part of this incubator, as I understood from various speeches from NISP and all other things, is that the business ideas should come from the students, and the students should come with this business idea. So what type of cultural or what type of ecosystem that you have made, sir, in IFHE? Could you please explain to us from your own experience?
That is what I said, capacity building, sir. Out of this 20, I'm very proud to say that 16 of them have come from IFHE entities. Only 4 have come from non-IFHE entities. Of course, that proportion will increase gradually. But if you ask me, am I happy? I said, yes, I'm very proud that, the last 2 years, the amount of work which my team of IAC faculty members, there were 21 of us, and about 60 students who in the entrepreneurship clubs, different entrepreneurship clubs in different schools, together we worked. That resulted in these 16 ideas coming today. Of course, how many of them will get selected, we don't know. But it has come. That is important. So to answer your question, that is what capacity building is all about, sir. Last 2 years, we encouraged them to participate in mock hackathons. We even introduced last year, actually, I got the university to approve. We have research seed fund. Professor O.S. Rao Garu will know. Research seed fund grant is there, and it's there in other campuses of ICFA universities also. So for the first time in 2021, I convinced the management to give the same amount to innovation and entrepreneurship projects. So in the first call, next call is going to come this month, is going to be announced because of the COVID breakout. We had to restrict it, but it's going to come. So 5 people applied for that. 4 of them are funded. They are right now going to go into incubation in the first cohort. So capacity building is very vital, sir. And despite that, could it have been better? 100%. If you ask me whether I'm happy with the response of the students and faculty, no. I still wish it could have been better. Students are notorious for not opening their mouth and not interacting. I'm sure it is true there also. It's true everywhere. Because anything you do, they will not open their mouth.
No, but how to make them see? In fact, Dr. Sainath Garu, the question, I think that is a common problem that we have. Like students have lots of ideas in their minds, but on how to pull them out, I think that is what Dr. Barik is also keen to know. Sort of how do we kind of, what is the facilitation that you do for the kind of multiplying the process of ideation and see that it is kind of communicated.
So start with an ideation competition. Invite, students to give their ideas, and enter into a contest. And for those ideas that have been submitted, you arrange mentoring for about a month. So all those who have entered their ideas, you have some specific mentors, maybe 2 or 3 times in a month they will be attending. And they will help the students to basically understand whether their idea is correct or not. And then they get selected for the final round where you give a few prizes.
Okay.
So that is one of the very good ways of making students understand what is an idea that is just an idea and what is an idea that can actually become an innovation.
Very good. No, in fact, sometime back, we have created, a business ideas competition.
Yes, sir.
Some
That's
ideas
what
that have come, I think what we have not taken forward was, at least we should have, mentored and counseled and, converted them.
May I suggest one for your kind consideration, sir, right now?
Yeah.
Even though I have closed the portal for incubating ideas, those ideas which won, ask them whether they will be willing to incubate themselves in IFH's incubator. We can provide virtual mentorship.
Okay.
It's not a problem.
Okay. No, we'll look into that.
That is an extension, sir. So they know that this is not going to stop only with this. It's going to go further. So it's important to give them that vision.
No, we will definitely, I think that's a great idea. I think we can look into that. Yeah. Any other kind of a questions, queries? Because I think because of personal reasons, I think Dr. Sainath also, maybe I think we may have to allow him to leave early. So otherwise we would have loved to spend a lot more time. So Dr. Manish, we got a lot of young faculty members. Dr. Tanti, you have been doing quite some work with regard to this, the mentoring some people, Dr. Tanti?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you would like to ask some questions because, you brought in some students and we did quite some work in the mentoring them, any ideas, anything you would like to ask?
Good evening, sir. It was a very nice interactions with you. We came to know many things. From the we were coordinating with the entrepreneurship classes and conducting that inside the classroom and providing them some practical experience to motivate them that they should come out with an ideas. But initially when they have they are inside the classroom, they do have a lot of ideas. They feel they feel happy to share the ideas. But when we try to convert it into a competitions, business competition kind of thing, they feel some hesitations like, sir, whether this idea could be fruitful or not, what the panel will say. So this thing used to come. Then again, we used to motivate them, this is a competition and anyhow you have to come out from your comfort zone and you have to speak up what is there in your mind so that it could be converted into reality. And after conducting of the competitions, we are going to praise the students by appreciating the certificates and the prizes. And we're trying them that what is your idea that is good, and the expert has given very good suggestions for the improvement. So let us work on that. So after that, we just found, sir, maybe after sometimes they used to divert their mind and they shift that, no sir, instead of going through that line, which is very risky, it's better to go for a job, sir, and then we will think of it. So this is what happens in our journey, sir. We need your suggestion that how to carry forward this thing.
Good. You raised a very important point, Professor Sinha. What I would say is don't push them, because an entrepreneur cannot be forced. They cannot be forced. It is a fact. See, if you have 100 students, if 5 of them come into the entrepreneurship field, you are made a great success. Don't expect large numbers, sir, in this, number one. Number two is they won't come. They won't come, and they are right. Number two is basically one misconception which I discovered rather late among IFHE students was, if I come into an ideation contest, maybe I should go the whole hog. Oh, I should develop a product, I should make it into a business entity, and I should establish a company. No, tell them it is perfectly likely. There are 3 domains of operation here. The first is you just have an idea. I have nothing else with me. I just have an idea. I've identified a pain point for the industry or the society. I have an idea of how to solve it. That's it. I have not researched it. I have no idea whether it's a good solution or not. So I have an idea. From an idea, I have to develop to POC, proof of concept. Right. Proof of concept is basically I have done research. I have said this is the solutions that exist. This is my solution, which is going to be unique for this reason. This is the technology I'm going to use. This is the society segment which is going to be benefited by it. All that is called development of a proof of concept. The third stage is developing a minimum viable prototype, MVP. So from POC, you go to MVP. So idea to POC stage is called pre-incubation. So a student has a full right to drop out at POC stage until I'm done with. Give them that confidence. Tell them it is perfectly all right. A student has a right to choose whether he or she would like to go to MVP constant. POC to MVP is incubation. Those who want, let them come. The rest of them, let them drop. After that comes MVP to accelerator stage. Accelerator stage is where a minimum viable prototype actually is developed into a marketable product. It is out in the market. So that's called the acceleration phase. So you need to give the confidence to the student that you can participate and drop out at any level that you wish. There's no compulsion whatsoever. And despite that, you will still get 5 out of 100. You are lucky.
No, it's a great this thing, I think revelation. I think Dr. Tanti, sometimes I think, we hurry up and push them and say that, come with a business plan.
Right, sir.
I think that if you try and push onto business plan, then they get scared. So I think, business idea, I think if you can leave it at the business idea, whether it is good or bad, whether it makes business sense or not, let them come with some ideas. I think if you can give them adequate space onto that, and devote onto that, I think that may be a good starting point. Otherwise, if you ask them, give me business plan, funding, financing, sales, all that, then,
come up with lot many things.
if they're confident of riding the tricycle, they will themselves go to the bicycle. So let them come up with ideas. Let them feel confident. Oh, my idea is being praised by the external panel members. Yeah. They will themselves shift to the next stage.
Right. No, Dr. Subit Chattopadhyay, any comments or any views from your side, sir?
Thank you very much, sir. Actually, I thank Professor Sainath for the excellent talk. Here, I would like to share one of my experience. This some sort of event took place by the ministry, that was Smart India Hackathon. That was conducted in 2017, and I was the coordinator. I was appointed the coordinator from the Ministry of Steel. So their actually objective was that the college students, the students who are passing out from the colleges, this thing, they will have to have a competition for this type of innovation, and that will be, they will do this thing preparatory work in advance, and in the particular campus, they will have to stay there for 36 hours at a stretch. Everything was provided by us. So there they will be implementing that one, and then ultimately the best ideas will be selected, and again they will be given some award or something like that, and some funding for implementation of that one. So that was a very good platform which encouraged a lot of students for their idea generation. And sir, you are absolutely correct. Idea generation is the most important thing rather than implementation, because implementation takes a lot of things. So it will take time and all those things. Students may not be in a position to do all those things. Similarly, in that similar line, in IIM, what we used to do we used to conduct some sort of business games. That means groups were formed and they were asked to have some idea generation, and then they used to deliberate among themselves, and some judges were there, parents were there. They were just listening to that one, and ultimately they were advising. So by this process, we were doing this type of idea generation for your this entrepreneurship, and we have already found some incubation center at IIM Ranchi. So that was my experience, and this is a very good thing. And even sir, before coming to this one also, I can tell you, Professor Sainath was talking about industry academia interaction or something like that. So Mekong was one of the classic example where we had the research and development wing, where there are a lot of PhD holders, scientists were there. They were solving the problems of the industry. And similarly, the industry experts were also being called to Mekong to give from the academics actually, to give the academic background for project implementation and all those things. So this is a very excellent opportunity. And I think with the passage of time, lot of innovation will be coming up, and the success rate of startup, I wish from 10%, it may go to something more. That is our wish, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suvik Chattopadhyay. Definitely, I think we can pursue some of your ideas and thoughts, for our university's innovation incubation also.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So, in case any other question, Professor Sumit Sinha, you want to ask anything? No, I think you have.
The session was outstanding. Means we have learned many things from this session. The only thing is that when we prepare a business plan, in that the financial part, when we prepare, then return, payback periods, calculation, means sector-wise, if students are interested. So that calculations from the bookish to practical is very different, sir, what we have seen. And then SIDBI and other department are more focused on the payback period. If you take the bank loan or any budding amount, the major concern is that financial part. So
where do you get the finance from, you mean?
Yeah, where we get the finance, how
don't go to banks, don't go to SIDBI and don't go to others. Honestly, there's a reason why I'm telling you that. Number one is there are several government grants awarded all through the year, depending on the sector. DSC has, DBT has, MATI has, then you have TBI giving, then SCRB gives. There are so many list of funds, under TIDE scheme is there, Inspire scheme is there. There are so many schemes and so many funding agencies, that announce calling for grants from student startups. The only issue there is, number one, there should be a registered startup. Number two, some of those are given only the startup is incubated somewhere. So that is another vital reason why you should have an incubator and you should get a startup incubated with you. That's one. Second thing is there are also some private investors or groups of investors. For example, there is a Bombay group of angel investors whom I know.
Yes,
okay, angel investor is the one who comes in funding the initial stages.
Sir.
Like I have a POC, I don't even have an MVP still. I have a POC, but they will fund you at that stage itself if they are impressed with the idea. So these investors give you funds straight away. All through the year they're available. So these are the two better sources of obtaining your investment.
Sure.
No, I think that's a kind of a very good answer. I think very practical answer. Otherwise, going through the SIDBIs and going through the bank loans.
Bank loans are laborious.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So they keep on asking so many things, which they kind of somebody with only ideas.
They will see you as a business entity. That's all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They won't see you as a startup.
Yeah,
the formalities and other.
I think still the Indian ecosystem for startups, I think it's not yet mature. I think, still, it is driven by the bureaucrats and people, with high expectations with the result, I think there's a mismatch between the youngsters who just come with the capital of only the ideas
Sir.
not money, and the expectations of the people, the funding agencies and promotion agencies.
Sure.
And also, Dr. Sainath Garu, another thing what we noticed is, you mentioned that there are so many schemes that are there. While it's a great thing that we got so many schemes, at the same time, the other issue is, it is confusing, and, somebody that has got some ideas, he or she doesn't even know where to go and what to do.
No, sir.
That's a big confusion for them, in terms of so many of them, every one of them, they work in isolation and they have their own way of evaluation of these kind of ideas, and they take their own time. And with the result, what happens, say, by the time, student will cool down. If somebody takes 6 months or 1 month, nine months, or, so much of a rigmarole into that. I think that is where
So there is a standard format which all these schemes are. So that scheme, once it is ready, and so what is the business plan? What is your timeline? Who is your team composition? Why is your idea unique? What is the technology? Give the brief guideline. So the data is standardized.
Yeah.
So it's like faculty members who apply for DST funding or AICT funding. So more or less the domains asked are more or less the same, sir. And second thing is, surprisingly, most of the schemes that are announced for funding invention and innovation and all, they are very clear cut about the sector which they want to fund. It's very clearly given.
Okay.
So incubator, that's why, sir, incubator should become the sole point of contact to advise students who have ideas, whether who should apply for what.
Okay.
So the incubator should play a key role there.
No, good. Thank you very much. I think, over our organizers, Dr. Barik, to continue this thing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sainath, sir. We cannot have any words to you, sir, in spite of your personal problems that we got. You have given a very brilliant ideas of conducting these incubators in the university. There is a time for the presence and establishment of this incubation center at the higher education institution, especially on the university point of view. Thank you very much, sir. You spent a lot of ideas. Probably in future we will disturb you and will request for more sessions, sir, for your presence, because you have started something else in the IFSC and we are just a very little one and a primary stage of this university, sir. And at the same time also we are thankful to VC, sir, for organizing such a wonderful session, so that we got this opportunity to listen from you, sir. At the same time also we are thankful to Dr. Suvir, sir, Dr. Hariharan, sir, and all our faculty members. And we are also thankful to Register, sir. Sir, with these few words, we need your blessing in future so that we will continue this journey, sir. Before we concluding our session, sir, just I request everybody to switch on this camera, sir, so you can take a small photograph for the future.
Yeah. So.
Sure, sir.
So still, I think some people are photo shy. Okay.
I request so all of the faculty members can
Are
just
photo
switch on
shy,
for
or maybe
5 seconds.
today still we have got the problems of the kind of internet and bandwidth and all these issues that are there. So I think that continues, because either we can have video or audio. If we can, if you want to put both of them, there's a problem there. That is where today we got some practical issues into that. So, and Dr. Sainath Garu, in fact, sort of our heartfelt condolences. And, we really appreciate, despite the
He is the oldest member in our family, sir, who was alive till.
He's 90 plus.
He is 98, sir.
Oh, I think anyway. Om Shanti. I think may God sort of give him this thing.
Yes, sir.
Sir, can we close, sir? With the
Yeah, you can close this session, and we got the next meeting. We got the FSD review. So thank you very much, and I sort of.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, everyone.